Thank you very much. I did say to Mike last night that he was going to be a tough act to follow, and I feel like I'm coming on after Trevor Noah. And I feel like we're kind of going into a therapy session. So I hope it's going to be as much fun. I think, as Mike said, we have a fantastic job. We work in a wonderful industry. It's creative, it's fun, it's dynamic, it's challenging on so many levels. But leadership can be hard in this industry. It's competitive, it's dynamic, it's ever-changing. So I want to start by asking each of you to tell me about the biggest obstacle that you've overcome and how you managed to do it. Ivan, I want to start with you.
Why?
Well, I could go where I said I wasn't going to go, but I'm not going to go there, so I'm going to let you answer.
Yeah, where do you start with the obstacles and challenges? I think I'll approach it more of the theme more than specific obstacles. And many of the obstacles, the theme is they reflect leadership contradictions. Mm-hmm. And it's a challenge on a daily basis. For example, people will be talking about leaders have to be vulnerable, but on one side, people want some stability, even during their vulnerable times. So you always have got to negotiate the two. Example, how do you, somebody's costing you money, you've got to let them go. And you are very angry with them, but how do you still let them go with grace and with decency while they cost you money? I'm involved in DEI. I've always been involved in that in my life. And when you go deep into it, you might find something about people you wish that you liked, you wish you did not find out. Mm-hmm. Worse, you might find out something about yourself. It's exactly that. So everything is about contradiction, and how do you navigate those contradictions? AI versus human. Mm-hmm. Performance marketing versus brand building. Everything is about contradiction. On a daily basis, you've got to be dealing with that. And it might be the smallest things, working in office, working out of office. That's what you do with a leader. So the answer is like, how do you address them? Because the two speakers have been on the theme of going to church. Well, I think they've given me a license to use some word that came from the good book about dying to self. That's the only way to do it. On a daily basis, you've got to do things that are counterintuitive to what your general humanity says you must do, which is tough. And it doesn't end up until you push up the roses. Yeah.
Okay, that was deep. But yeah, I mean, just it's that continuous struggle. Carl?
I mean, I've got a lot of challenges. I've got a lot, I think, I mean, the thing for me with, leadership is, I mean, the way I see the whole thing is my personal thing is about growth. I've got to keep growing. If I think I know everything, I mean, I can have more experience in something gets me into the room to have that thing. But for me, I've got a lot of obstacles that change every day. I've got stuff I'm going through right now that I'm trying to figure out with work, right? So, but I think one of the big things for me was like trusting my gut, learning to accept that that is a voice that I can kind of deal with and actually listen to. So I think that was a big thing, because you need confidence in that, and
absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's a creative thing. I think it's a people thing, is that we are insecure. Mm-hmm. So confidence is also like hard, to own. But the thing for me, like obstacles, I'll have obstacles. Things keep changing. There's no like finite end point. So for me, I will keep having obstacles that I'll keep having to deal with. And I think the only thing that keeps me going or sane is I have a constant voice. I honor that. I don't veer off of that. And I try and just like be true to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's humbling because this industry is continually evolving. So just when we think we know everything, then there's something that we don't know. So that's true. Kenzie?
Yeah, actually, interestingly, a lot similar to Carl, because it was trusting my voice, and in trusting my voice, ensuring that I was brave in decisions or campaigns that I sort of wasn't 100% sure of, right? So, I mean, I don't know if Ntabi's back in the room. When we did the Secrets campaign a few years ago, and we showed it to the top 200 leaders at Nedbank, the feedback that I got was, you're going to destroy our brand.
Wow.
Top 200 Nedbank leaders. I was like, fuck my life. Well, this is the end of my very short career at Nedbank. And just before the launch, I happened to go to Madagascar on holiday with my husband, and I kept on calling Ntabi. And that's the thing, like, I'm very open about, like, I'm scared. And I called Ntabi and I said, should we pull this thing, man? Like, I'm like really nervous and stuff.
Yeah.
And Ntabi said, like, Kensi, trust your gut. Trust that you know this is the right thing. You guys have worked on it for so long and stuff. And it ended up being one of our most successful campaigns ever. And a lot of the Nedbank people, like, who had been at Nedbank for 150 years, came back and were like, we were wrong, which was amazing. So I think it's just like really just listening to my gut and just making, and I've grown in that bravery, by the way, and stuff, because I don't think it ends. I still get like really nervous. And then I would say, the second thing is knowing when to let go. And I mean in many ways, knowing when to let go of an idea, knowing when to let go of people. I think on the contradiction part that Ivan was talking about, I have tended to stay with individuals that I should have let go long ago. But because I'm trying to care and all of that, and then all it does is it actually destroys the individual themselves because it doesn't help them.
Yeah.
But it also destroys me. So knowing the right time to just say, I'm letting go now.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, people have spoken about being brave. It's all very well to speak about it, but in that moment, when you've got 200 people saying, what are you doing? You're destroying our brand. It's extremely hard to hold the line. Carl, you as a creative leader often speak about, you know, your passion in the role that creativity plays in building brands. Does that why you get out of bed in the morning help you stay focused and inspire you as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, creativity without impact for me is art.
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying that, don't tell anyone at the agency I said that. But I think we can influence and affect people's lives, right? And I think all of it, I think Matthew Bull spoke about that. He spoke about that from a brand point of view. He said, like, brands can influence communities, people, the brand, individuals. For me, the impact that we have or can be massive. You know, sadly, a lot of I'm going to get a little philosophical, a lot of the meaning, you know, happiness is defined when you add meaning to what you do, right? And for me, meaning is like doing good work, realizing that. We had a moment a couple of weeks ago, we did really well in a campaign, and we're up on stage it was for Ricky Rick, and he committed suicide, and we did this campaign, and for the first time we had his wife with us at the show, and we were sort of at the back in the audience, and everyone went up, and I was up there, and I was like quite hyped up, and I was like, where's Bianca, where's Michaela, the two people, she was with Bianca, the wife, and when she walked up on stage, the feeling that I had
I get goosebumps, that's amazing.
was so incredible, you know, and still for me, I mean, I get a bit like emotional about it, but like when that happened, I was like, that's why we do it. And that's in that kind of campaign, right? But when you're doing that for a brand and you can say, shit, we've given people access, I'm not pushing anything, to data or connectivity or to learn or insurance.
Pushing MTN.
Yes, sorry. Push other clients as well. But I think that meaning, you know, keeps me going is the ability to find a solution that creates impact and then sell that. I mean, not in that order. That helps me inspire, you know. So I try and push that.
Yeah, and I thought too, the earlier speaker, Frank van den Rieck, really had those 4 circles, do love a Venn diagram, about purpose. At the core of it is exactly that, isn't it? Kensi, you've had the most incredible career. You've worked in a number of massive, big corporates. You've been in beer and fast-moving consumer goods and telcos and banking, and you've been exposed to a lot of leadership development programs, recently at Harvard. What have you taken out from, what's been your biggest learning? Because a lot of people don't get the opportunity to go onto those sort of structured leadership training programs. What's your biggest takeout?
It's going to be a personal one. I'm actually going to talk about South Africa.
Yep.
What was interesting for me when I did AMP at Harvard, because it's the latest one that I did, and by the way, I believe no one ever stops learning. Like, I love learning.
Agree.
I'm very curious and all of that. But what was interesting, Gillian, we had 177 candidates doing AMP from 44 countries. Out of the 177, 38 were women. 177, 38 were women.
Damn, really?
South Africa, there were 7 of us. Out of the 7 of us, 5 were women. So rockstar South Africa, right? Like, incredible. And then, as we were going through, you can imagine you're being challenged by different professors and, all of that. The South African guys, from a leadership perspective, were the most impactful, the most knowledgeable. And I'm not really buying face here. It's because we've got such an understanding of the macro world. We've got such an understanding of much more than this little country at the bottom of, the continent of Africa. So we were quite impactful in class. And I even remember at the end of the course, the class had to vote for the class speaker. And in the end, there were 3 finalists as class speaker. Of the 3 finalists, 2 were Black South African women.
Yeah, whoa, brilliant. And one was you, right?
Yeah, and then
Yeah, obviously.
in the end, they did vote for me.
Yeah, go Kenzie.
But what was incredible for me is I think as South Africans, we underestimate ourselves.
I completely
And actually,
agree.
so my
Yeah.
biggest learning and lesson as I go through all these different, and even, Frank was speaking about the IRG thing. Like, I mean, when I went on IRG about 5, 6 years ago, South Africa was just here in terms of talking about how we run our brands, manage our brands. And I think what we need to do as South Africans is lean into our amazingness.
Couldn't
Yeah.
agree with you more. I had an American client who always said she was so impressed by South Africans because we've had the difficult conversations and we're not afraid of difficult conversations.
Yeah.
Ivan, you've done so much work through Africa in your various roles. And I know every time I see you on Facebook, you're in another country. So what have you taken out of your travels through the continent and elsewhere? Have you had any sort of profound leadership thoughts?
Yeah. Before the broader African, maybe a bit add to what Kensani was saying about South Africa leadership, and also link it to the picture that Doug, you remember, painted in terms of what we deal with. I was saying to one of my colleagues globally, we should be running leadership boot camps in SA. Just like in the medical field, why South African people are sought after, because what they get exposed to, they get so advanced quickly. I don't think there are many marketeers who've got to deal with the kind of things that we've got to deal here. So
Yep.
many other countries should be coming here to learn, to say this and this and this, and you still have got to hit the bottom line. So I think there's a nice business idea in there. But to your question about the continent, Chile, I appeal to everybody that if just the opportunity to travel onto the continent, and every time you go to any of those countries, you come back having seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in all its measures, right? But it also helps you in terms from a leadership perspective of not looking at the world through South African lens, and which is what we battle with South Africans. What I've learned, and it's gonna sound like a cliche, right? I mean, everybody's talking about Africa is not a country. Yeah, it's not a country, but sometimes our issues are like a country. So what I'm saying is there's as much differences as there are similarities. And the biggest issue in leadership is never to assume just because people share the same strive and the struggle that they are a homogeneous group. That people might be connected by a problem, but within there, even if you are trying to help, do not help them as if they are one mindset. Sometimes I found people that have got far much more similarities in another country, and I found people that have got far much more differences who might look like me and who are like me, but who are not like me. So it's the combination, is the duality of leadership about that. Push for what connects people, but at the same time, do not stop learning and listening to people as individuals, regardless whether they are from the same country, the same village, whatever. I beg you today, here's an exercise you should do. During break, if you can strike up a conversation with somebody for 10 minutes, I swear to you, you will say, I never would have thought. And that's the single biggest thing that I have learned traveling. If you give yourself a chance to talk, to listen to somebody's story, you will always be surprised and shocked. So if you can do it when you are traveling out there, what more about in your own company? Is there somebody that you think in your company is invincible? Because they might not look the part, they might not look cool, they might not look like me. You are missing out on something powerful of just striking a conversation. 10 minutes only. I promise you will say like, wow, I would never have thought about that about you.
Yeah, and I think, yep. I think that in leadership positions, leadership can be quite lonely. And it can be that you are sort of stuck in your own echo chamber and you don't actually get out and go and speak to people that might challenge you and might have completely different view to you.
Yeah.
Last question for each of you. What would your advice be to your younger self? Kenzie?
Yeah, I guess I get asked this question a lot. It's a little bit difficult. Like, I think it's something around, you're going to be fine, man. Fuck. Like just go. Like, it's going to work out. You know what I mean? Like, I was thinking about it earlier this year. I was going through a really personal crisis in terms of just where I was, in terms of my job, myself. And we were having our annual sort of recognition awards at Nedbank. And I'm having to celebrate, like, great work that the team is doing, and I wasn't okay. And I stood up there and I said to my team, as we do all of this great work, please can we not forget to take care of ourselves, right? Actually, that's when I went to Mexico. I went into the jungle for 10 days to go on a personal retreat to look after myself, because I just felt like at that moment I needed it, and I wanted my team to know that this is what I was going through, because I wanted them to understand that leadership, we're not perfect. It's not like you get there and now you're like this chiseled, perfect machine. It just doesn't work like that. So when I think about it, I always think in everything and all the challenges and all the wins and all the great, actually, like when I step back, Kenzie at 5, with all the anxiety you've got in your head, you're going to be fine, my darling. Like,
Aww. I'm just picturing little Kenzie. That's so beautiful. Robin Sharma talks about sharpening the saw, which is kind of, you can't cut down a tree if the saw is blunt. And, looking after yourself being such an important part of leadership. Carl, what would you say to little Carl?
It was something someone said to me, which was, it's a marathon, it's not a race, right? And that stuck with me. But in hindsight, I think there's like a character development if this was a plot. And I don't know if over the timeline, because of time, that things would have been different. I think I wish that I was just a little bit more confident in myself, just owning myself a little bit more. And I think, just being more visible. I wish I had a bigger voice when I was younger, but because I was so insecure, I didn't. If I had, maybe that would have shifted things. And then the one thing that I think that I say to the younger guys, besides being visible, be seen, be indispensable, is the realization that the ability to break a problem down and find a solution is what will keep you going, no matter what skill. If you can use your mind and find something, because with all of that comes accountability and all those other things. I wish I'd known that earlier, because I've been fumbling my way through things,
But again, it comes with time, I think, and confidence. Ivan?
It's 3 statements that I know as a matter of fact now, and I wish I knew them when I was younger. The first statement is, you can never know the full picture about anything. Even logically, you can't. It's just impossible. The second one is, everything is connected. The third statement, so are the 2 statements. And it's important to know that they are connected. If I was younger and I knew every interaction that I had, I would not have taken for granted. I would know directly or indirectly. It was going to shape who I am. But when it happens at the time, you don't know, right? You don't know it. It's only in hindsight to say, if I didn't see this, if I didn't meet this, if I didn't go to this would not have happened. So every opportunity that you have, every human being that you met, you don't have any idea how they are going to shape you.
True.
There's no coincidence in life. That's not true. It doesn't exist. I wish I knew that, and I would have been a bit more caring, giving some people that I ignored, that I should have given, and I've made to feel invincible. And now when I look at that, I said I shouldn't have done that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think that I want to thank you.
What would you give your 5?
Yes, exactly, exactly. Thank you,
Gillian.
What would I tell
What would I
myself?
tell, yeah?
I think I would tell me to back myself. And I think it's an evolution. You know, there's constant doubt, and I think it's hard to be brave. But when you do tap into that voice, and you know the voice is there, it's there, but it's learning to listen to it and back that voice. Yeah. So thank you. I think it is a constant, as I say, a constant evolution. I think we've got to keep learning always. And I think that it is about self-mastery, but it's also about self-kindness. It's about, you know, as I say, looking after yourself so that you can guide and lead others in a way that grows them as well as grows you. So thank you to my wonderful panel.
Thanks.
Thank you
Gillian.
for listening. End of therapy. We can
Thank
go
you.
now. Thank you.